Welcome back to Wealthy Business, the channel where we analyze the most important stories in finance, global markets, and technology, and explain how they shape your wealth and the world's economic future. Today, we're looking at a brewing international crisis that's shaking the foundations of the global supply chain. One that's not about advanced AI chips or quantum processors, but about small, seemingly simple components that make the modern world run. We're talking about the Nexperia crisis, a standoff involving the Netherlands, the United States, China, and the global automotive industry that's threatening to paralyze car production worldwide. Let's unpack what's happening, why these chips matter so much, and what this showdown tells us about the new Cold War over technology and control. 1. The story begins. How a Dutch chipmaker became a global flashpoint. At the heart of the crisis is Nexperia, a Netherlands-based semiconductor company that manufactures billions of what are known as foundation chips, the small but essential components that power virtually everything around us. We're talking about transistors, diodes, and power management chips, components that cost cents to produce, but without which your car, smartphone, or even your washing machine simply wouldn't function. Now here's the twist. Although Nexperia is based in Europe, it's owned by a Chinese company, Wingtech, which also owns several semiconductor facilities across Asia. And this ownership structure has become a major geopolitical problem. In October, the Dutch government seized control of Nexperia, citing national security concerns. Officials feared that Wingtech might transfer Nexperia's intellectual property, its designs and technology, out of Europe and into China. The Dutch government even used a Cold War-era law to justify the move and suspended Nexperia's CEO, Wingtech founder Zhang Shuizhen, over alleged mismanagement. The message from The Hague was clear. Europe doesn't want its critical semiconductor technology controlled by Beijing. 2. China's retaliation, blocking the flow of chips. Beijing didn't take the move lightly. Within weeks, China hit back, placing export restrictions on Nexperia's China-based factories, blocking chips from leaving the country. This was a devastating blow because around 70% of Nexperia's chips are produced in Europe, assembled and tested in China, and then re-exported to automakers and electronics firms worldwide. That re-export loop has now been broken, and for the global automotive industry, that's a nightmare scenario. You see, Nexperia's chips are everywhere in modern vehicles. They control battery systems in electric cars, power windows, airbag sensors, headlights, braking systems, and even entertainment consoles. In short, without Nexperia's foundation chips, a car cannot be built, period. That's why Volkswagen, Nissan, and Mercedes-Benz sounded the alarm almost immediately, warning of potential production cuts if the chip supply doesn't resume soon. Unlike high-end AI chips, these components are not easily replaceable. They're part of highly specialized manufacturing systems with long qualification processes. Even though automakers keep some stockpiles, switching suppliers overnight is nearly impossible. As one analyst put it, it's not the fancy chips that stop car production, it's the cheap ones. 4. The geopolitical web, the US, Europe, and China collide. This crisis isn't happening in isolation. It's the latest flashpoint in the broader global tech war. The United States has spent the last few years tightening export controls on advanced semiconductors, trying to limit China's access to cutting-edge technologies. Now, by blacklisting Wingtech, Nexperia's Chinese owner, in December 2024, Washington accused the company of helping Beijing acquire sensitive semiconductor manufacturing capabilities. Europe, meanwhile, is caught in the middle. The EU wants to protect its own chip sovereignty, but also fears a trade rupture with China, one of its biggest economic partners. And China? It's striking back, using its leverage over supply chains to show that the West is just as dependent on Chinese production as China is on Western technology. 5 signs of a breakthrough. The Trump C factor. Amid growing panic in the auto sector, there might be a glimmer of hope. Reports suggest that during talks between US President Donald Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping, a framework deal was reached that could allow Nexperia to resume exports from China. According to insiders, the US plans to announce the deal formally, allowing certain categories of chips to leave China under strict monitoring. And Beijing's Ministry of Commerce confirmed it would exempt eligible exports from its restrictions, depending on the actual situation of the enterprise. That statement might sound vague, but in diplomatic terms, it's a signal of de-escalation. If those exemptions go through, automakers could avoid immediate production shutdowns. But make no mistake, this is a temporary truce, not a long-term solution. The Nexperia saga is just one example of a much larger global struggle: the fight for technological independence and control over semiconductor supply chains. Every major power, from Washington to Brussels to Beijing, has realized that chips are the new oil. Whoever controls chip design, production, and distribution controls the global economy. The West no longer wants to rely on China for assembly and testing. China no longer wants to depend on the US and Europe for chip designs and equipment. And in the middle, companies like Nexperia, along with automakers, electronics firms, and consumers, are caught in the crossfire. This isn't just a trade dispute. It's the early stages of a technological realignment that could reshape global manufacturing for decades. Wealthy business takeaway. Here's what we can learn from the Nexperia crisis. Small chips can cause big problems. The global economy depends on tiny, inexpensive components that few outside the industry even think about. Supply chain resilience is now a matter of national security. Countries are willing to seize companies, block exports, and rewrite trade laws to protect their tech base. The balance of power in the semiconductor world is shifting. Europe is asserting itself, China is retaliating, and the US is pulling the strings behind the scenes. The Nexperia standoff may calm down in the short term, but the deeper struggle over who controls the world's semiconductor future is far from over. And as investors, analysts, and citizens, we'll be watching how these moves redefine not only global trade, but the very nature of economic power.